If you are somebody that likes to read within seasons, or you're just looking for some winter book recs, I have 10 to talk to you about today. I read and enjoyed all of these books and I would recommend them to you. It is a range of 3 to 5 stars for me. So not all-time favorites, but I enjoy the atmosphere that winter books can bring, and I think it can be perfect in horror books. First up is I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. We are following an unnamed female narrator, and she is thinking about ending things with her boyfriend, but she is going to kind of the middle of nowhere to meet up with his family. It happens to be very snowy. We are learning about things in her past and then also seeing his interaction with his family. This one is one that, like, what is happening? The interactions with his family are very odd, and then they leave and the snowstorm is still happening, and the boyfriend ends up deciding that they have to take this detour, and it leads to some other very unexpected and interesting things happening. The setting of this one really impacts the story. It's a strange time, but a good time. Next up is The Visitor by Sergio Gomez. This is set on Christmas, and we are following 5, I believe, strangers who end up at this rest stop together. They're here for various reasons, but they are all trapped in because of the snow. It is not safe to drive, and people are not able to get to where they need to go. It starts off as a frustrating situation because everybody wants to leave but they can't, and then a 6th person, the visitor, shows up and things very quickly start to get bloody. This is a short kind of slasher book. I do think this one would be more impactful if it was a little bit longer, but I still think it's a fun Christmas read. Next up is Road of Bones by Christopher Golden. This is following 2 people who are going to work on this documentary. Kind of. They are going to Siberia to investigate this road that is known for people disappearing and ghosts on it. This is actually based on true events. This road is a real thing. There's a lot. I enjoyed learning about the history of this, and I liked seeing the film crew aspect of it. And I think that one of the best parts about this book is the snowy, cold atmosphere. I will say that Road of Bones and The Visitor are my 2 least favorites from this list, but I still give both 3 stars and would recommend. Next up, I have The Winter People by Jennifer McMahon. This is definitely a slower one. It is very much on par with her other books. They all feel kind of similar and a little bit similar to Simone St. James, in my opinion, with the amount of horror and the kind of stories that are focused on. So this is set in 2 timelines, I believe. Yes, 1908 and present day. So we are learning about the storyline in the past where somebody's daughter has gone missing, and then a couple months later they are found dead. We are learning about that story. And then in the present day, we are following a family that now lives in this farmhouse. One of the 2 sisters goes missing, and the other one that we are following is trying to figure out what happened to her. With that, she ends up finding the woman from the past's diary and investigating that because it seems like there might be some similarities between everything that's going on. And then she finds out that there are other people investigating the situation, which makes it seem more urgent. I enjoy this one. Definitely slower paced. This one has a lot of psychological stuff in it, and it focuses a lot on sister relationships. Next is Ascension by Nicholas Binge. This is sci-fi horror, and let me tell you, it's a weird one. I have a live show that I hosted for this for a book club that I ran, the Pyramid Book Club, and it's an unhinged discussion because this book just leads to that. So if you have read this, or even if you don't want to read it and you want spoilers for it, it's a very entertaining discussion. So we are following these people that are going on a mountain climbing expedition. Sorry, I'm just thinking about some of the things that happen in this book, which I did enjoy. We are following a research team that is going up this mountain to obviously research things, and then it seems like there might be something else on the mountain with them. The thing that they are investigating is this mountain appearing out of nowhere. That's already an interesting start. The higher they get up this mountain, the more they are unsure about everything. This one is very mind-bending. You don't know what's going on. The there's some things. It is both serious and not at the same time. Like, it doesn't feel like a goofy book, but it's funny. I don't know if that was the author's intent, but I enjoyed that aspect of it. And being essentially trapped on this mountain in the snow, I think added to it because they couldn't get away from everything that was happening because of the environment. Definitely a fun one. Next up is Candy Cane Kills by Brian McCauley. I have talked about this one recently for short recs, but it also is set on Christmas Eve. It is snowy. We are watching a family going on vacation to repair their very dysfunctional family. Turns out the house has a past of bad things happening in it with a family that lived there. They all died, and then Candy Cane comes to get revenge. The town is trying to keep this a secret. I think this one had a lot of fun kills in it, but also had a lot of heart. There is a sequel that takes place directly after this one, which I didn't enjoy as much, and this one is set more in a church and doesn't feel as like snowy and atmospheric. I feel like the weather plays into the kills in this one and not as much this one, but I would recommend both. Next up, I have Near the Bone by Christina Henry. This is following a woman who lives on the mountain with her husband, who is awful, terrible, hate him, and she starts to think that there are creatures out in the forest. She's hearing things, she's seeing things, and then these people show up, and she has to decide if she is more scared of her husband or if she's more scared of these monsters that might be in the woods. She's trapped on top of this mountain. It's snowy, creepy, and very frustrating, but also a great read. Next up, I have This Is Where We Talk Things Out by Caitlin Marceau, another one I've talked about recently because it's super short. This is following a woman who's about to get married, and her mom have a very troubled relationship, and she decides she doesn't want to get married and go into this new relationship with all of this kind of hanging over her. So she agrees to go to this cabin with her mom for the weekend. They get there, and her mom has replicated her childhood home almost exactly. Very creepy. Then her mom starts acting even weirder than that, and they get snowed in. It is so stressful. I love people getting trapped because of snow. That sounds bad. But I think it just adds to the tension, because even if you try to escape with it, there's these uncontrollable forces, and another element to the story that I have a lot of fun with. Speaking of people getting trapped in the snow, Dead of Winter by Darcy Coates. This is following a group who is going to a resort, and they are driving up the road, and they end up forced to take shelter in this cabin, and then people start to get picked off in kind of horrific ways. They don't have any way of communicating with the outside world. They are trapped in this cabin. Clearly somebody there is out to get them, and they truly have no way of getting out because of the snow and the mountain. You question everybody in this book. You don't know who to believe. Everybody seems so suspicious and possibly capable of doing these horrific things. So I love watching our main character try to figure out who to trust and how to get out of this situation. And finally, I have We Used to Live Here by Marcus Klewer. This is following a woman who is waiting for her partner to come home from work, and a family shows up, and they are like, oh, I used to live here, can I show my family around? And she's very uncomfortable about it, so she calls her partner and was like, hey, can you tell them that they can't come in? And she's like, no. Which, why didn't she just say she was calling them instead of actually asking her? I don't know. But she ends up feeling guilty and letting them in, and they're supposed to be there for a very short amount of time, and it turns into longer because the daughter decides to hide. Things start to get even weirder. She is questioning what is going on. This family creeps me out. I don't like them. And because of the reasons that initially led them to stay longer than anticipated, they get snowed in and are trapped for even longer. Oh, this one just made me so stressed. The tension. I very much enjoyed it. So lots of horror book recommendations that you can read this winter. Personally, I didn't read most of these during the winter time, so if you aren't somebody that definitely reads seasonally, I think they're great reads any time of the year. If you've made it to the end and want to leave me an emoji just to say you were here, you can leave me a snowflake. If you have any other recommendations, please leave them in the comments. And if you've read any of these books, I'd like to know your thoughts as well. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope to see you soon. Bye.